In this video tutorial, I'd like to show you what you're going to build for your next project in Scratch. I'd also like to demonstrate how to put together some of the pieces, but I want to encourage you to use your own creativity and imagination as you put this together. It doesn't have to look exactly like I am building it. So ultimately, it's a maze game. You need to include 5 levels of mazes. So here is what one level might look like. It has a beginning over here in the bottom left hand corner, symbolized by the house, and it has an ending over here symbolized by the red flag. And my character here is a knight. So as the knight moves around, the knight cannot touch any of the green space. So if I do touch the green space, you can see my knight jumped from wherever he was back to the beginning to make sure that the person who is playing this game actually stays on the trail or stays within the maze boundaries. So as you navigate this maze, if you happen to make it all the way to the end, it should then take you to another maze. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that by getting the knight all the way to the end of this maze. And these additional mazes are totally up to you. They should be complex. It should not be something super easy to beat, but it will take some skill to overcome. So here is the second maze that is presented. Now let me go ahead and demonstrate how to begin building this. To begin this project, open up your web browser and go to scratch.mit.edu. Once there, sign in like you did in the first tutorial, and then at the top of the screen, click the Create tab. That's going to open up the Scratch project editor. The first thing that we're going to do is add the 3 main elements to this project, and that is you need a character, you need a starting point, and you need a finishing point of your maze. Now in Scratch, these main elements are known as sprites. So down here we're going to be clicking the New Sprite button, and we get to choose from the library of pre-made objects. So feel free to use your own character. You don't have to choose the one that I pick, and be as creative as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the knight once more. So that's this under the fantasy category, and then click OK. Additionally, I need a starting point, so I'm going to click that New Sprite button again, and I'm going to look under the Things category for something that I could use as my starting point. And in this case, I'm going to use that Home button that's located right here, and click OK. Now I also need the finishing point, so I'm going to click the New Sprite button one more time, and under Things, I have that green flag right here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now I have the main elements of my program here, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this one right here. To do that, I'm going to click on the scissors icon up at the top, and then come down here and then just click on the little kitty cat. Okay, so now that we have sprites, let me show you how you can modify them. So I'm going to go ahead and select this Home button right here, and I'm going to go under Costumes, and I'm going to change the colors of this. To do that, I'm going to select the color that I want. For instance, let's make the inside color of this stand out. Perhaps maybe I want it to be red. So I'm going to select red here, and then I'm going to click the Paint Bucket tool over here, and then the inside I'm going to make red. But red on blue doesn't stand apart very well, so I'm going to make the outer part of the house yellow. So same thing, I have the paint bucket selected over here, I have yellow selected down here, and when I hover over this, it will paint the surrounding of the house yellow. Let me do the same thing to the flag. I'm going to go ahead and click the flag, and I want the flag to be red, so I'm going to go ahead and click down here the red in the color palette, and I'm going to select my paint bucket tool and then change it to red. I could do other things here. I could draw additional things. I could make a new costume completely, but I'll save that for another video. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the background for this maze. To do that, I'm going to click on the stage over here. And right now my background is blank. Let's go ahead and give it a nice green grass color. So I'm going to select green and then take the paint bucket tool and fill the entire background as green. So next we need to start drawing the maze. So to do that, I'm going to select the brush tool up here in the top center of the screen. And then I'm going to select brown for the trail. And I'm also going to make the brush width a lot bigger. And you don't want to have it too big or the maze becomes too easy to accomplish. And you don't want it too small that it's too difficult. So you want somewhere near the end of this width. About that size is about right. And then what I'm going to do is start in the lower left. You don't have to start in the lower left. You can create a maze that begins wherever and ends wherever. But you do want to create a somewhat difficult maze so that it's a little challenging. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to begin drawing my maze. And this is kind of random, but you want to have different offshoots of your starting and your finishing points. You can even connect like different pathways as you go. So as I draw this, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to end, but we'll figure that out in a minute. Okay, so let's just pretend like this is the maze that I want to build. And now I just need to make my pieces here, my main elements, fit within the maze. So to do that, we're going to use the shrink and grow buttons until we have the appropriate size. So now that I have this backdrop, I'm going to go ahead and just name this maze up here. As a matter of fact, we should name our project maze. Since I already created one as a demonstration, I'm going to name mine Maze 2. So it doesn't conflict with the first one that I made. And then you can make sure that you save it. So click the save button up here if it doesn't automatically save. Alright, so let's go ahead and make the night fit within the borders of this maze. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have the night selected, and then I'm going to basically play with the shrink and grow buttons until he fits. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink him down just by clicking on him like so. And let me click off of him and drag him in the spot. So he still doesn't fit. I need to go a little bit more. Maybe I'll make him go a little bit bigger. And this is where if you think that the night is too small, we could even make the trails of the maze even bigger. Because that could potentially happen here. The trail size is just too narrow. All right, now we need to do the same thing with the beginning and the end. So I'm going to make this one shrink. So my house is the beginning of my maze, and now I'm going to drag that over here, and that appears to fit. So I'm going to put that over there, and then let's put the flag over here, but we need to make that smaller as well. And maybe a little bit more. Okay, so there's the end of the maze. Okay, so now that we have our maze built and our character fits within the trails, now we have to begin building the scripts that are going to manage this game. And to do that, we're going to select the night. So with the night selected, and that is a key thing to do here, is make sure that you have the blue box around your night, or whatever is going to be the character of your game. We're going to trigger an event, so I'm going to click on the event category that signals the beginning of the game. So this is what we're going to use. We're going to say whenever we click the green flag, that begins our game. And then we want the night to move to the beginning spot on our maze. So this is going to be our home button that it's going to go to. So under motion, I'm going to say go to, And instead of mouse pointer, we want it to go to the home button when I click. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and demonstrate, and the knight pops to the home button. The problem is it's actually hidden behind our mouse button. So we want to show this. So under the looks category, we want to say go to front. So there's a stacking order that occurs here, and unfortunately the knight was stacked behind the house. So we're going to say go to front. I'm going to go ahead and click this again, and now the knight pops in front. So now the stacking order is the knight, the house, and then the background. 3 different layers stacked on top of one another. All right, now we need a loop, basically a game loop that keeps repeating over and over again until we reach the goal. So I'm going to drag a forever loop over to here. So the next thing that we need are 6 if-then blocks. That's this right here. So you're going to take 6 of those and put those inside of the forever loop. And what it's going to be is we have an if for each of our buttons on the keyboard that are going to control our movement. That is the up arrow, the right arrow, the up and the down, as well as 2 if-then blocks that represent if we've actually made it to our goal or if we've stepped out of bounds. So let's go ahead and add those in next. So this is going to be under sensing. So we're going to use this one, if a key is pressed. So we're going to just drop that in the little spot right there. And this one's going to be our up arrow. So if we've pushed the up arrow. And then we're going to repeat that 3 more times. So I'm going to drag one in here again and again and again. And this one's going to be changed to the down arrow. This one's going to be to the right arrow, and this one's going to be the left arrow. So this is going to handle our movement. And then we need to find out if we've made it to the flag. So if I'm going to use this top one, if touching our green flag, I know that's misnamed. We could rename that, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. And if touching color. So we're going to go ahead and put that down here. So if I'm touching green, let me go ahead and just, if I click in the green square and then click over here in the green, it will get the exact color. That'll detect if I'm actually out of bounds. So now the next thing we need to do is add our motion. So if I push the up arrow, I want to change my Y position. So just like in geometry, you have a Y-axis and an X-axis. The X-axis moves left and right, and the Y-axis moves up and down. So I'm going to set Y. I'm sorry, I don't want to set Y. So to delete this, I'm going to drag this back over here. I'm going to change Y. So that's what I want right here. I want to change Y by 2. So that means move 2 pixels in the positive direction. And then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to change Y in the down arrow if block by -2. So up goes +2, down goes -2. And Y is going to, or the X-axis is going to be pretty much the same. So if I move to the right, I want to change the X by 2. And if I push my left arrow, I want to go -2. And of course, if I'm touching the green flag, I need to say a message. So I'm going to go over to looks, and I'm going to say, you win. And then I'm going to take them to the home screen. So that's a motion. So I'm going to say go to. And it's going to move me to the home button. And then I'm going to switch the backdrop. So I'm going to make my looks is going to switch to backdrop. And I'm going to select next backdrop, which is going to take us to the other mazes as we go through this. And the last one is if I actually step out of bounds, I need to go back to the home button. So that's going to be under motion. So if I am touching the green color, I need to click on go to the home button. And that should help us traverse the maze. So let me go ahead and push the green, and now I should navigate. If I actually touch something green, it takes me back to the home, and then I could test all the way to the end. And yay, I win. Okay, so I do want the say you win to actually last 2 seconds. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to go over to looks, and I'm going to say you win for 2 seconds so that it pauses a little bit. So I'm going to change this to you win exclamation point, and I'm going to take this one out. To do that, I may have to unstack these. So I'm going to just drag this over here and then drag these back in. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And lastly, we need to build some more mazes. So the next thing to do would be to go over to here where we have the backdrops and click on the paintbrush icon in the lower left. That's going to create a new backdrop for us. Here was our first backdrop, so we haven't lost that at all. And then here is our new one. So we basically want to do some of the same steps that we did before, but we want a different maze. So those steps again were to click the paint bucket tool, select a color such as green, and then click the stage. Then what I suggest doing is reusing the same starting and finishing points but create a new pattern in between. So I'm going to click the brush tool, and I need a brown color, and then I need to widen out this width so that it's not too big and not too small. So I'm going to go about that size, and right near the beginning of it I'm going to go ahead and click in there, and you can see that it shows up when I release my mouse that I was slightly high on this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to paint again a little bit low, and now my start fits between the top and bottom of my path so far. So then I'm going to continue on from there and basically create a maze in whatever pattern that I feel like doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make a couple of different branches like this. And so on and so forth until we complete this maze. Okay, so you can see here that I missed the red flag a little bit, so I'm going to actually just kind of like round this out so that eventually I can make that. But try to make your maze as complex as possible without making it too hard. So here is my second maze, and when my knight reaches the flag in both levels, basically, I would see the next maze in the list. Alright, so once again, keep making more mazes until you have a total of 5, and be as creative as you want. You could even drop in more characters in different spots of the maze, and that could be another obstacle to get around.